Hello, and welcome to another edition of Ditch Witch Diaries. Today, we are kind of going back to we were doing kitchen bewitchery before, so this kind of harkens back a little bit to kitchen bewitchery. But I decided to go on with the top of the seas, and the top of the seas was cabbage. So we are going to enjoy cabbage, and it is fun. It is really fun. So I hope you guys all enjoy it as much as I did. So hold on one second while I get it brought up.
I was on, not so much anymore, but I was on like a cabbage steak kick where I was like slicing up the cabbages into like
Uh-huh.
discs and frying them up and then drizzling like tiny little almost burnt pieces of tofu and cheese on top, and it was so good.
Yum.
Like it's
That
like
sounds
caramelized almost like onions.
yum. I think I'm gonna leave that part in because it sounds delicious. Cabbage. Okay, so I love this picture too. It's like
I
row.
was just
It's
gonna
like
say lovely pictures.
billions of cabbage. It's like tons of cabbages. It's like a rabbit's little delight.
Yes.
So cabbage is Brassica oleracea capitata is what cabbage is. And there's a bunch of different kinds of cabbage that we're going to talk about, but it's just cabbage in general. So this is a picture of cabbage, and this is a picture of the cabbage that we know. Although later on we're going to talk about some of the Asian cabbage, which is shaped a little bit
Mm,
differently, but this is called like the hard head cabbage. And then there's a picture AI thinks about it. So there you go.
lovely.
So the parts used, you can eat like all of it. The outer leaves, the inner leaves, the stem, and the core. Move you up here so that I don't keep looking in the. I hate that when I do that. Other names are Beichu, colewort, rocket, and wiser scent. So interesting little, not very many,
Interesting. Because
but
isn't rocket also arugula?
I don't know, but
I
colewort
think
was one that they talked about a
oh, it's
lot.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool. Hmm.
So cabbage, though, is the anglicized form of the French caboche, meaning head. So it's like a head, a little head.
Nice. Little round head.
Exactly. So cabbage is native to the Mediterranean and Asia Minor, and it was late to come to America. It was not native to the Americas. It was introduced to North America in somewhere around 1541, 42 by Jacques Cartier, who planted it in Canada. And as of the 16th century, only the hard-headed, that's the kind that we showed before, variety had been described. So and red cabbage wasn't even known to England until 1570. Yeah.
Hmm.
And okay, these are like this is a cruciferous plant. So it's high in nitrogen and vegetable protein, and it's got a notable amount of sulfur. So it decays rapidly, and when it does, it gives off a really unpleasant odor. So, cabbage also produces a lot of gas in your belly, along with other cruciferous vegetables. So, you may want to be careful about that. And so that's also, though, like its ability to decay rapidly, though, is also a source of goodness. Okay. So, because when it's packed tightly in a tub with salt and aromatic herbs, they ferment. So you can think of kimchi and sauerkraut as well. So it ferments very easily. Also, like the next plant we're going to talk about. So,
Do
so
you like kimchi and sauerkraut?
yeah,
I've never had kimchi. I'm not a fan of sauerkraut though.
yeah, I like sauerkraut and kimchi. I like kimchi as well. So it's like spicy though. It can be. I don't know
Mm.
if it's all spicy, but the one I had was fairly it's richly flavored as well.
Mm.
Um But cabbage is really easy to grow and it's really full of water. So it retains a lot of water in it. So let's just get right into this lore, stories, and the cultural importance. And we're going to start with the Celts. And they were the first to make this a food product. They distributed and popularized cabbage as a food product, as opposed to some of the other cultures that used it, interestingly, primarily for medicine. Okay, so people always say that the Romans introduced it to Europe, but really it was almost certainly the Celts who did in a much earlier time. So in Egypt, the cabbage was worshipped. Okay, interestingly enough, and I said that the Celts first popularized it, but the Egyptians were also using it for food as well. But it was really like a worship food, and it was the first dish that was eaten at any banquet. It was for the upper echelon in Egyptian, because I can't imagine it being really easy to grow in Egypt. Like it's a water-based plant. It takes even though it's easy to grow generally, it's filled with water, and you're in like a desert that floods during a very small period of time, you know? So I'm sure it was rare and very important to have this. And anyway, so then we go to the Ionians. So who are the Ionians? I'll tell you who the Ionians are. They are Greek people who moved out of Greece and they settled in Asia Minor, which is modern day Turkey. So, and they believed that the Fae rode on the cabbage stalks. So, nice. I know, very fun. And they also swore solemn oaths on cabbage, like I swear on cabbage. Just kind of funny. So the Russians, we moved to Russia, and this is modern Russia too. It's the national food of Russia. And in Russia, they eat 7 times more cabbage than we do. So they love them some cabbage. Interesting. It's interesting that my family was never into cabbage. I don't know. They may have come over too early because my family was my dad's side of the family, not my mom's side of the family. My dad's side of the family, they were all from like Russia and from places that are now Belarus and like that area. And I can't remember my dad ever liking cabbage. He would never ask for cabbage. I'm sure if he were given cabbage, he doesn't seem like something he would like. So, but I guess whatever, to each their own.
Yeah.
So in Korea, and look at the cabbage there. So that's the kind of cabbage that you see in Asia, is that kind of elongated cabbage there. And in Korea, an unmarried woman who eats the root of cabbage kimchi, so I guess it's kimchi that's made out of the root of the cabbage, will be blessed with not having a sister-in-law when she marries. And I really don't know what importance that is, but wow. Sorry. How lucky.
When I worked at the grocery store like a long time ago, we sold more, so that looks like a Napa cabbage. We sold more Napa cabbage than even the like hardhead cabbage, which was interesting.
That is interesting. I know. I wonder, I wonder if it's easier to eat. Because I have a hard time eating cabbage. Cruciferous vegetables never do well with me, so.
I love cruciferous vegetables, but I try to eat them in small amounts. So I'll eat like a handful, except for my cabbage steaks, which I love. But yeah, Napa cabbage is like, it's a lot thinner. Like the leaves on a cabbage head are really thick.
Yeah.
So it is thinner.
Interesting. So in China, and look at that beautiful picture. It's not a picture. It's actually, I made I gave it a picture because it would not make the right thing. So I finally took a picture of what this is and I gave it to AI and I said, make me a rendering of this. And this is what I got. So first of all, in China, it's a symbol of wealth. So the Chinese name for cabbage is Bai Kai, which is a pun for 100 wealth. So And China has two humongous cabbage statues.
Oh, nice.
One is 30 feet high and the other is 65 feet high. So,
Dang. That's crazy.
okay, so then in Taiwan, this is another interesting little cabbagey event. So one of Taiwan's cultural treasures is a cabbage made of jade. So, I know. Now we move to Rome. And as Jupiter wrestled with interpreting two conflicting oracles, he strained himself with the weight of it so much that little sweat, he was actually sweating from having to interpret conflicting oracles. And as the sweat droplets fell to the ground, each one turned into a small cabbage plant. Very interesting story, I know. So Pliny said that it was the sole medicinal remedy in Rome for a period. So he said that there was no other like medicine used but cabbage. Okay.
Interesting.
I know.
Just for everything?
Yeah, for everything, I guess. For everything. So then in Greece, we have another cute story about cabbage. So Lycurgus, a prince of Thrace, destroyed Dionysus' grapevines in his garden. So Dionysus, of course, became furious and he tied Lycurgus up to a grapevine forever. So, and then as Lycurgus cried over his lost freedom, his tears sank into the soil. And what did they sprout? Tiny cabbage plants. So another one about tears and cabbage. So
I was just going to say,
yeah.
Do you go into any more detail at all about why tears? Or like,
I think it's the water thing. I think it's the attachment to water. Like it's such like a big water.
Yeah,
it's like
sense.
Made of water, and we'll see that there's other watery things as well. So then there's this other story in Greece, this other idea in Greece that cabbage would cure intoxication. So people would eat cabbage when they drank to supposedly relieve themselves of intoxication. Again, it might have been the water content. It might have been filling up their stomachs with water bloating. Who knows? Who knows what was causing people to become less intoxicated, or if it was just the what's it called effect, what is it called, that when you think that something's going
to like a placebo effect?
Yeah, placebo effect. Maybe they just
hope. You know what's really funny actually too is there's this meme that my sister sent me years and years ago, and it's like, can you imagine being a vegan and going home absolutely wasted and saying, you know what I want to smash down right now? Cabbage. And it was like a meme, and I was like, why would they pick cabbage out of anything? But this is hilarious. That makes
exactly. This is why. Exactly. Cabbage. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Wow. So, and then we have this medieval kind of thing. Like, I love how they say medieval. Like, okay, like medieval where? It was a medieval period all around the globe, folks. Okay, but in the medieval time, whatever.
In medieval, yeah.
Okay, so newlyweds were given cabbage soup the day after they were married, and so that it was like supposed to be good for their long-term relationships so that they stayed strong. In Germany, it's interesting because Grimm's fairy tale has a story about cabbage. So it's called the donkey cabbages. So get ready, we're gonna tell a story. A young huntsman helped an old woman who rewarded him with a magic cloak that transported him anywhere and a bird's heart that provided gold each morning. He later met a beautiful maiden and fell in love, unaware that she and her mother, a witch, schemed to steal his treasures. They tricked him into giving up the bird's heart, then betrayed him, leaving him alone on a mountain. On the mountain, he ate an enchanted cabbage, and it transformed him into a donkey or an ass. But later, he ate another magic cabbage that restored him. and he was determined to reclaim his treasures. He disguised himself and he tricked the witch and the maiden into eating some of this cursed cabbage, and he turned them into donkeys. Afterwards, he restored them and he forgave the maiden who confessed her love and loyalty. They married and lived happily ever after. Wow. Listen, you scheme against me to take my treasures. I'm not coming back and I'm not forgiving you. You're gonna remain an ass forever. I'm not giving you any of the unhexing. Sorry. I guess I just don't forgive as easily as the donkey.
I'm not an easy forgiver often.
I'm like, you know what? I'm a forgetter though. Like that's my thing is that like I don't forgive easy, but I forget easy. Like so that's my like maybe that's my downfall. Like it just goes finally after a period, it just like goes out of my mind. Like I'm just like I don't hold on to it anymore. I don't know if that's what forgiveness is. Maybe it is, but if somebody brings it up to me, I'm like, fuck no, I don't forgive that person. Like I don't like I ghost them. I don't want to be around them, you know, but like I feel like I forget. I'm an easy forgetter. People have said that Sagittarians are like
think puppies.
Like they always come back and like, okay.
I'm not quick to cut ties, but I am very quick to revoke my trust. Like once you break my trust, it's really, really, really hard to gain it back. Like I'll still, we can still be in social circles and all of that stuff, but I'm not gonna like lend you that part of myself anymore, That's probably the Cancer in me.
It is because I'm kind of I will ghost you in a second. I will fucking cut you off and never speak. Like what? And I will block.
I wish I was more like that.
I'll block you. I'll like block you on everything. Like I will block the fuck. I'm not as bad as a Leo. Dude, a Leo will block and unblock. Block and unblock. Block and unblock. No. I'm not doing any of that. You're blocked. You're blocked. Like that's like until something happens. Like I had done that to poor Brooke one time. Like she'd pissed me off and I just blocked her. Done. Luckily somebody interceded and said, hey, you know what? She's really not doing well. You may want to unblock her and like be friends with her again, And I'm like, fuck, I'm a bitch. So then I just forgot. I didn't even remember what she was blocked for anyway. Like I didn't even, I'm like, okay. Like, so that's what I mean. Like if, like, I'll just, okay. Like we can be friends again. And I'll like trust them as much as I ever did. Like just the trust is back. But I will just, yep. No, yeah. I just can't. I sometimes I just need to be away from people. Like I just need to be like, not with people. So
that's fair.
Yeah. The Germans also have a lot of proverbs about cabbage. So they have, and I use the English translation because I don't speak German and they're kind of funny. I tried to say like what they meant to us. Okay. So like one of theirs is one of their proverbs is translated to reheated cabbage is never good. And this is a cautionary tale about trusting someone who was an enemy previously. That's your saying. Reheated cabbage is never good.
Never.
You have to tell me that. You have to keep saying, Rachel, reheated cabbage is never good. Okay, so here's another one. Pretty words do not fatten the cabbage. So that means that actions speak louder than words. Okay, and they even said like that this was probably in a time before they did that study that if you talk to plants, they like get better. Like, but what it means is like you have to do something to make the cabbage grow. Like it's not going to make a cabbage grow by just looking at it and talking to it. So So our cabbage tastes good. So it means there's no place like home. Yeah. And then he who spits in the cabbage must eat it. It means that like you've made your bed, now you must lie in it.
Yeah. You reap what you sow, man.
Exactly. If you spit in the cabbage, you have to eat it. I swear I want to use these. Like I need to like take these and copy them and put you spit the cabbage, ducks.
Yeah, enjoy it.
So in Ireland, so blindfolded girls were sent to pull up the first cabbage they touched. If the roots had plenty of soil, it meant that they'd marry a wealthy man. But if the roots were bare, it foretold marriage to a poor man. Yikes.
Oh no.
I know. Exactly. Couldn't get any worse. Fuck. So the cabbage's flavor in Ireland would reveal the future husband's temperament. If your cabbage was sweet, so would your husband's be. And if your cabbage was sour, you were out of luck. Sour man. In Ireland, cabbage and potatoes are combined in a traditional dish known as colcannon. So during the Halloween season, the dish would be served and it would have hidden items in it, like a ring or coins or other small tokens. And each would symbolize a future prediction for the person who discovered it. So such as a ring for a joyful marriage or coins for prosperity. So kind of like the king's cake. Like but they only have one thing hidden. They just have that baby hidden. Isn't it a baby that they hide in it?
I think it is a baby, yeah.
It is. Okay, so I gotta show you.
Yeah.
I have the best. I want to get one of these large. And I'll be damned, I could not find this large. I looked high and low. So let me show you this. I'm gonna stop sharing even because it's so amazing. Okay. So look at this little baby right there. I want to see that baby.
Wow.
Okay, so
yeah.
I love that baby. It's so weird and it's so odd, and I love that baby so much. And I want one like about this big, like, and I can't find one that big. They all look different. They don't look like this. I want this one, like.
Yeah.
So, and I want it like made out of the same stuff, like it's squishy.
I was just gonna ask, is it like plastic?
No, it's squishy. It's plastic, but it's squishy plastic.
Squishy plastic.
Yeah.
Nice.
I did in a king's cake.
You could probably like send pictures or something to somebody with a 3D printer.
I know. Oh, that's a good idea, huh? That's a good idea.
I don't know if they have squishy plastic, but potentially.
I know, exactly. It might be hard.
Yeah.
Anyway. So in America, we have some other things that are interesting, and we just passed it. So October 30th, so the day before Halloween, is Cabbage Night. So it was the night where you're supposed to pull pranks on people, but interesting Cabbage Night, huh? Nice. I didn't even know that was a thing. In New England, on Halloween, a cabbage was hung over the door, and the first person of the opposite sex to go through the door was the person you would marry. So, interesting little Halloween legend there. We just passed Halloween, though. Another Halloween legend. On Halloween, a girl is supposed to walk through a graveyard, take a cabbage. I know. And place it above her front door. So she's supposed to steal a cabbage from a graveyard. This is supposing that cabbage is growing in graveyards. So you have to first find a graveyard with cabbage growing. Then on Halloween night, you have to sneak into the graveyard, take the cabbage and place it above your front door. So when the door opens, the first person upon whom the cabbage falls is destined to be her husband.
Love it.
I know. So during World War II, Americans renamed sauerkraut. Okay, get this. This must be a tradition of Americans. Liberty cabbage, kind of like freedom fries. Remember that? We weren't going to call them French fries.
The freedom fries.
We have a habit of doing this. When we don't like another group of people, we have to rename everything. So it was Liberty cabbage with sauerkraut, so that people would still feel okay about partaking of sauerkraut. So then in pop culture, okay, we've got some Cabbage Patch Kids, okay? Okay, and I put up fertility magic because that's like the idea of it, is that like there's like all this cabbage and these like little babies grow out of this cabbage. So the little Cabbage Patch Kids. Okay, so also it was in Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I don't know if you saw this show, or it was actually in the
Mm-mm.
cartoon version. I can't remember. I didn't see the non-cartoon version, but I loved Avatar: The Last Airbender. I didn't like the ones after it. Anyway, so enough about that. So the Cabbage Merchant.
My,
What? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say my sister was named after a Cabbage Patch doll.
Really? Do you, so what's
Yeah,
your,
my mom had
can
a
you,
Cabbage Patch doll. Her name's Candace.
oh, Candace
So
the Cabbage Patch doll.
yeah. Yeah, so I guess there's a Cabbage Patch doll with the name Candace, and my mom like had it or saw it somewhere, and she was like, "I love that name." And then there you go, Candace was born.
Okay. Well, okay, so
Yeah.
I used to have a Cabbage Patch doll that was one of the original Cabbage Patch dolls. Like when I was a little
Mm.
girl, there was this place in the Mission Viejo Mall that like had, it was like a weird store. It was like it didn't have all dolls, but it had this like crib that was filled with these original Cabbage Patch dolls. And they were like bigger than the Cabbage Patch dolls you got. And they were like signed on the butt by Xavier Roberts, every single one. And I have, you are frozen, by the way. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're not.
I know I can still totally hear you, but like you
How
were
weird.
frozen.
So I had one of those Cabbage Patch
Yeah.
dolls, and it was like I had it forever. Like it was so cute. It was my favorite doll ever. Anyway.
That's cute.
And then my brother even got those when Cabbage Patch was a big deal. Like you had to wait in line for those. Like those dolls sold out in a second. Now nobody likes toys.
Okay.
Like Toy Story toys are so
Yeah.
garbagey too. Like we went to a
Mm.
like Macy's or someplace had like a Toys R Us section that me and my son went to. We just went to
Mm.
a Macy's for something, and we went to this Toys R Us section, and I was shocked by how, first of all, how ugly Barbie dolls are. They are ugly as sin.
Oh, really?
They are
Oh.
hideous. Like they were never hideous. They were always like the most beautiful things you ever could imagine. Like I just
Mm.
like whether they were like my mom got into like the Barbies of the World collection, and she would buy
Mm.
me like the Barbies of the World, so they looked different. They had different color skin. They, even their faces were sculpted different. Like I can remember the
Mm.
Inuit doll had these really high cheekbones, and they really were beautiful. Like now they are fucking ugly. Like I just looked at them like, who would
That's
want these?
crazy.
No wonder nobody's buying these. These are even the ones that look like the traditional Barbie. They
Mm.
look cheap. They look like the pick and save versions.
Mm.
Remember how like if your
Uh,
mom didn't have a lot of money that year, she would go to Pick and Save and get you the fake Barbies that were
mm-hmm.
like a couple dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And they were always really ugly compared to like the real
Mm.
Barbies. That's how the real Barbies look now. They're
Dang.
so ugly. And I just thought all of these toys are, I told my son, I said, all these toys are cheap. They're horrible. They're like, we used to have
Mm.
good toys that were fun. And he's like, nobody plays with toys,
Yeah.
mom. We all were on our devices. Think about it. A 2-year-old has a device
Yeah.
in its hands. Nobody's playing with a toy. And I'm like,
Mm.
you're right. You're right. Nobody is. So who cares if the Barbies are ugly? Because nobody's playing with them anyway. So it doesn't matter.
So sad.
It's very sad. So anyway, more about cabbage.
Yeah.
So Avatar: The Last Airbender is had a character in it called the Cabbage Merchant, and it's a definite fan favorite. So it appears in season 1, and the episode is the King of Omashu. And like there's an overzealous guard who destroys his cabbage cart. The Cabbage Merchant, like people love him. Like it's in cosplays, like there's conspiracy theories about the Cabbage Merchant. It even it like has its own Funko collectible. Like it's like the Cabbage Merchant has become a fan favorite for the Avatar: The Last Airbender. Anyway, and
No.
I bet you
Did
didn't
you
really.
see? Sorry, we are
Okay, go ahead.
like Oh, there's a lot of discussion in this one, but so I haven't seen The Last Airbender like at all, but I've seen clips of, I don't know if it's from the movie or the show or whatever, but they animated. But have you seen the clip on talking about the chakras?
I have not. But if I saw it, I'm sure I'd
You should check
remember.
it out. It's really good.
I will.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really interesting. Check it out.
I love they're so elementals. Like it's like magic based on the
Yeah.
elements. So Airbender is obviously
Mm-hmm.
an airbender, but they like his whole thing was that he was like, well, who cares if I give it away? He was like locked in this ice, and when he came out of this ice, he came to like the land of the waterbenders. Like so, like there's like it's all and then
Oh
they were
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
fighting a war against the firebenders. Like it was like it's rad. It's such a
Yeah.
good, it's a great little show. So
You know what? I think I have seen that movie. Not the animated one, but I think that I saw the real one
the animated one is so much better.
with the real people. Mm,
Yeah. I don't know if I like that one. I think I started it and was like, because the animated one
mm,
is a big series. It's like takes a long time to get like
mm.
it's goes into much more depth. I did see the regular one and I thought, they although I have to
Mm.
say they did a fairly decent job of making the actors they selected look like the animated characters.
Mm.
Because the
That's good. Nice.
okay, so there's a waterbender, and I don't know I can't remember names ever. But this chick is a waterbender, and then she has this brother, and the brother's always making those real big anime mouth, like like those like
Mm.
faces, and the
Yeah.
character that they got to play him, I was like, it's funny that you got this character. Like it was decent. Like I'm like, okay, you kind of do look like him.
Mm. That's
Anyway,
cool.
yes.
Very nice. Mm.
So the next and last pop culture reference I have is from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And all like Charlie was from a poor family. If you remember, his four grandparents would sleep in the same bed all the time, like that big bed. And and all that
Yeah.
Charlie had to eat, all that his poor family ate was cabbage soup. So in Charlie and Chocolate Factory, it was related to being poor instead of being wealthy like in other
Mm.
cultures. So let's go on to the correspondences. Okay, so element, you guessed it, it's got to be water. There's no other choice. It's water for sure. The
Yeah.
planet is the moon. The astrological sign. So Libra was one that I found as its astrological sign. But then I found like this whole thing about optimal planting, like if you're doing biodynamic gardening, which is gardening based on the moon
Mm.
and where the moon is. So when the moon is, it's best to plant like cabbage when the moon is first Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces, which are water signs. So first of all, that's going to be ideal, but also Libra because that's its sign, or Taurus. And it said
Mm.
that it stimulates the base chakra but feeds the heart chakra. So the Sabbat,
Interesting.
yeah. So there's a couple Sabbats that would be appropriate. First of all, it didn't really talk about Samhain, but Halloween is where it's kind of like Americanized Halloween. Beltane also because you can think fertility and that growing in the spring and all that good stuff. And then
Mm.
also red cabbage is associated with Yule. So the moon phase is the first quarter. And this is probably why it's associated with Taurus, why it's good to plant during when the moon is in Taurus, is because it's associated with the goddess Venus, as well as Fae and Luna. So the magical properties. Obviously, fertility and love. We saw that like all over the place with those love spells, with even the Cabbage Patch Kids. Luck. Okay, so it's especially lucky to grow cabbage in your garden. And it's lucky for newlyweds as well, like we saw with that story about in medieval times. Like new like to have luck in your relationship, you were supposed to eat the cabbage soup the day after you were married. Also, it's a symbol of money and prosperity. And we saw that with like the Chinese name for it, and in China, that it's a definite show of prosperity and wealth. And also in Egypt, like that was like a prosperity kind of thing. Moon magic, because that's its planet. And we already talked about all the magic pretty much. This probably sums it up. I can't remember anything else that would be from the lore. Um, except for maybe transformation, like the Grimm's fairy tale, like transformation, because it was turning people into donkeys and then back again from donkeys. So maybe some sort of
Yeah.
transformation. I didn't have much magic,
Or
but I was,
forgiveness.
oh yeah, forgiveness. True. It
If
can
you're
avoid,
interested in that.
exactly.
I also feel like it could be about like nurturing too, right? Like a lot of people eat it as like a main meal, and so even though maybe I mean we haven't talked about the medicinal properties, but like magically it could be tied to like self-nurturing or something maybe.
Definitely. Well, it's definitely, and also like maybe family and bringing like people together,
Mm,
because it's like a main food staple of many cultures. And they
yeah.
use it, you know, you can think of like it bringing people to the table and bringing families together
Mm,
around the table, anything like that.
yeah, agreed.
So now that was it, really. So our medical disclaimer, of course. Okay, come on, folks. Like, first of all, cabbage,
Every time.
and second of all, but it does have a ton of medicinal
Mm,
properties. So with
nice.
like that said, like I say that almost facetiously because you're going to be shocked. Okay, cabbage is like used medicinally a lot. Okay, and as we saw even in Rome, where Pliny said it was the only medicine ever used. Well, we're going to see why. But we're not
Mm,
doctors, so we're just repeating what we learn and what we know. So we're not MDs for sure. Okay. You should seek a licensed professional if you have any of these troubles we're going to talk about. So it's an anti-scorbutic, which we know is anti-scurvy, an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, a probiotic, a laxative, anti-spasmodic, antibacterial, and antiviral. Although laxative maybe, but it definitely causes gas in the process, which for me is incredibly painful. So
mm, yeah, very
okay, so
bloating.
anti-inflammatory. So first of all, for backaches, so it's one of the things is that you can actually heat a leaf with an iron and then put it to a
Hmm,
person's back and then cover with a towel to retain
interesting.
the heat. And when it gets cool, you can just re-iron that leaf and reapply it to a
Hmm,
person's back. So
that's pretty cool.
I know, huh? Interesting little remedy. It also is said to help rid the body of parasites. And it's a blood purifier, whatever that means to you. I've also heard that it's a cancer preventative. And I had some experience with somebody that I knew personally who was eating, what is that kind of diet? It's like a certain had cancer, and it was like not an anti-cancer diet. It was like a I don't know if it was for TCM or an Ayurvedic diet, but they were using like leaves actually to put on the cancerous area, the area that
Hmm,
was, yeah. So, but it does have a lot of phytonutrients, and that's supposed to be the key in the cancer prevention. It also is supposed to help with radiation treatment. So, or being exposed to radiation at all.
hmm.
It's also good for infections, and it's supposed to lower birth defects, lower heart attack risks. It's because it's supposed to lower cholesterol. It's supposed to regulate your blood pressure. Those are like some deadly combinations for heart attacks, folks, too. And if you don't take my word for it, go ask your doctor. But if you have high cholesterol and high blood pressure, you are at risk. Okay, you need some help
Hmm.
because that's like a deadly combination. You're like set up for a
Yeah.
widowmaker. Okay, it's a good source of vitamin C, obviously, because that's an anti-scorbutic, and it's a good source of vitamin K as well. You can also use it for sore and inflamed eyes. So externally, in addition to the eyes, you can use it as a cooling, soothing poultice. And for irritated skin, it's supposed to soothe irritating skin. So in traditional Chinese medicine, it is used quite a bit. It's supposed to nourish the spleen and pancreas, and it's supposed to treat things that are hot and dry. So some people said like throat coughing, like a dry
Mm-hmm.
cough. Anyway, it's also supposed to help with constipation and regulate the gut and the flora, or flora in the gut, I should say, which is always good, especially in our days of like eliminating wheat from our diet. You eliminate wheat and you eliminate the what your flora populate in your gut. And so then our gut flora is completely off, but this helps regulate it. In Ayurvedic medicine, it's supposed to balance the pitta and the kapha. You know what that means? Better than me. We'll have to do a whole series on Ayurvedic medicine where I read up on all these things. I know pitta and
Yeah.
kapha are two of the three body types.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they come along with it comes all sorts of issues.
I went through like an Ayurvedic, um, I don't know if I want to call it a phase, but where I was like reading up on it a lot. I was like really interested in it. I even was looking more deeply into like my personal body and like which of the three I had and like the diet and stuff. I didn't stick strictly to the Ayurvedic diet, but I was incorporating more of those things that it said that I needed to. So I went through like a down a rabbit hole a couple years ago, but yeah, I do not stay up to date with it.
Interesting. So these are my sources. You'll notice Venus and cabbage. There's like a whole like article about Venus and the cabbage. So yes. Anyway, let me exit out of the screen share. Okay. I hope you enjoyed cabbage. I thought it was fun. There's a lot of fun stuff about cabbage. The humble cabbage is really exciting and means a lot in a lot of different cultures. And that's all. If you enjoyed this, like and share and comment and all that good stuff, and subscribe to our channel. And we will see you at the next Ditch Witch Diaries.